Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in to explore, well, one of the most powerful stacks of strategic frameworks out there.
Absolutely. We're talking about product strategy, design thinking.
Frankly, anywhere you need to understand human behavior.
Exactly.
Our topic is simple on the surface, but it's profoundly difficult in practice.
It really is.
We're trying to define why customers act
Yeah.
and how to stop ourselves from building, the wrong things.
The things nobody wants.
Our mission, if we want to call it that, is to build what we're calling the anti-solution bias machine.
I like that. The anti-solution bias machine.
Right. Because most teams, and let's be honest, most of us, when we're trying to solve a problem, we just jump immediately to the answer we think looks best.
Oh, absolutely. It's a natural instinct.
And that instinct, that solution bias, is what we're here to sort of inoculate ourselves against. We need to stop focusing on the feature and start focusing on the actual progress the user's trying to make.
And this is not just some academic theory. These are really practical, synergistic tools. When you use them together, they enforce clear alignment, and they pretty much guarantee you get deep user insight.
So we're going to unpack them in 3 stages.
3 logical stages. First, the discipline of problem framing. Then the motivational bedrock, jobs to be done, or JTBD. And finally, the actionable blueprint of job stories. If you can integrate these 3, you will solve the right problem the right way every single time.
Okay, let's unpack this discipline. The absolute essential first step, problem framing.
The gatekeeper.
The gatekeeper. I like that. It's the intentional, structured work of defining the right problem before you let anyone of the team jump to a solution.
And it is the most common failure point.
Really?
Oh, yeah, because it feels like unnecessary overhead. It feels like you're slowing down.
But the consequences of getting it wrong are huge.
Immediate and costly. Think about the symptoms you see. Teams building features that, nobody uses.
Or stakeholders debating endlessly because everyone has a slightly different idea of what the problem even is.
And that leads to this focus on outputs, the features, instead of measurable outcomes.
The actual behavioral change you want to see in the user.
Right. If you can't define the problem, you can't measure if your solution actually, moved the needle.
So problem framing is what avoids that solution bias from the very beginning.
It forces alignment. Everyone has to agree on one single description of the pain point before you're even allowed to talk about a solution.
So how do we actually do this? The sources lay out a really solid checklist for a good problem frame.
They do. And it's more than just saying the user is unhappy.
Right.
We could just list them, but I think it's more interesting to talk about the ones that teams always seem to miss.
Okay, let's do that.
So everyone gets the basics, the actors or users, the context where and when this happens, and of course the pain itself.
But the real strategic power, that comes in the second half of that checklist.
Exactly. You have to define the impact. What's the real consequence of this problem? If it's not severe, it's probably not worth solving.
And then number 5, the ideal outcome. This is critical.
It is. What does success look like in a measurable way? What behavior changes?
And the final 2, which I think separate the great teams from the good ones, constraints and assumptions.
Constraints are the non-negotiables. Time, budget, tech. But assumptions, they're the silent killer.
How so?
Because teams just assume they know why the user is struggling. You have to make those beliefs explicit. Is it a viability assumption, a feasibility one?
And when you make them explicit, you can test them.
You can. That's what tools like assumptions mapping are for. It tells you what to test first.
And we also have things like the 5 whys to get to the root cause.
Right, peeling back the layers. And then you turn that problem into an open-ended question with HMWs. How might we statements?
So the goal of all this work is to get to one crisp problem statement. The gold standard format is users trying to job goal, but problem barrier, which results in negative outcome. They need a way to desired outcome.
Let's use a B2B example. A bad frame would be, we need an app update because user engagement is low.
That's a solution, not a problem.
Exactly. Instead, let's take that remote worker scenario from the sources.
Okay.
A remote worker wants to access secure company data quickly while abroad, but they face constant multi-factor authentication delays, which results in wasted time and missed deadlines.
They need a way to.
They need a way to automatically and securely verify their identity without all that friction.
See, that is a powerful frame.
Yeah.
It's all about the pain and the desired progress.
And it never once says, build a faster VPN. It holds the solution bias at bay. So now that we've framed what the problem is, we can go deeper. We can go to the next layer, which is understanding the motivation behind it.
And this is The heart of jobs to be done, JTBD.
Exactly. It's a framework that helps us stop looking at, user demographics and start looking at the progress they were trying to make in their life.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me because it moves beyond just standard personas. The core insight is the hiring concept. Customers don't just buy products, they hire them to do a job.
That's the key. You're not selling a thing, you're selling a transformation, an improvement.
The classic example is always the drill bit, right?
Right.
People don't buy a quarter-inch drill bit. They hire it to make a quarter-inch hole so they can mount a picture frame, so they can make their living space feel more permanent.
And that concept is so crucial, especially in complex B2B settings.
Yeah.
Nobody hires Slack just to send messages.
No.
They hire it to reduce the cognitive load of managing their team and to make sure information flow is documented.
Okay, but I have to challenge you a bit here.
All right.
In B2B, isn't the job often pretty straightforward, like manage our budget or track inventory?
That's a great question.
Do we really need to get into all this functional, emotional, social job stuff? Is that just adding complexity?
No, it's absolutely necessary because that's where products actually differentiate and win.
Okay.
The functional job is the core task, yes. Process and invoice, that's table stakes.
Right.
But the real opportunity is in the human elements. The emotional job is about how the user wants to feel.
So, for the invoice.
They might want to feel confident that this transaction won't trigger an audit. It's about reducing anxiety. If your software does that better, you win.
And then there's the third type, the social job. That's about perception.
Precisely. How they want to be seen by their boss or their peers. They might hire that same software to help them show their manager they're an indispensable contributor.
So you have to design for the task, but also for the anxiety and the aspiration.
You do, and this also explains why people don't switch to a new product, even when it's better.
Right, the JTBD forces model.
You have the push of the old problems and the pull of the new solution.
But they're fighting against two other forces.
Two very strong forces. The first is habit, just the inertia of doing what you've always done.
And the second is anxieties, the fear of switching, fear of data loss, fear of looking stupid.
And here's the key takeaway from all that. A new product only wins if the push and pull are strong enough to overcome that habit and that fear.
You have to design the adoption process to reduce their anxiety, not just add more features.
Which is why the JTBD interview is so focused on the story of the struggle. We're not asking for feature requests.
No, you're asking about the last time they were frustrated.
We dig into the context, the triggers, their workarounds, and most importantly, the raw emotions they felt. That's where you find the real job.
Okay, so we've framed the problem.
Mm-hmm.
We understand the deep motivation using JTBD. Now we have to translate all that insight into something actionable.
Right, something a designer or engineer can actually use.
And this brings us to the third piece, job stories.
And this is where we fix the problems with traditional requirement writing. Most teams use that old user story format. As a persona, I want feature.
Yeah, but that format so often suffers from feature bias. It's focused on the solution.
Totally. As a marketing manager, I want a new dashboard. That's telling you the solution. It's not telling you the need.
Okay, but hang on. A well-written user story is supposed to include the why. How is a job story fundamentally different? Are we just changing the words around?
We're changing the focus, and we're getting rid of the constraints of the persona.
What's wrong with personas?
Well, they can be useful for marketing, but they often stereotype behavior. A marketing manager acts very differently when they're rushing for a deadline versus when they're doing long-term planning.
Ah, okay. The context is missing.
The context is missing. Job stories force context and motivation to the front. The format is, when situation, I want a motivation so I can desired outcome.
That when part is the key. It forces you to define the moment of need before you talk about the desire.
It's the mechanism that fights solution bias at the requirement level.
Let's use some specific examples to make this concrete. Think about managing digital meetings in a big company.
Okay, a generic request might be, we need better meeting recording software.
Vague.
A powerful job story would be, when I am reviewing a complex legal negotiation that I missed, I want to quickly find the precise section where key terms were agreed upon so I can ensure absolute accuracy in drafting the contract.
That's so much better. The outcome, ensure absolute accuracy, tells you that you need things like transcription and searchability. It drives the features from the need.
Right. Or a high-stakes B2B security example.
Go on.
When I receive an urgent alert about a potential data breach late at night, I want to immediately lock down the compromised servers with my phone so I can reduce the window of exposure and feel confident I acted instantly.
That emotional job, feel confident I acted instantly. That's huge.
It's a massive design requirement. It implies a need for an incredibly fast, simple mobile interface for a critical action.
So for anyone listening, the tips for writing these are: start with the moment of struggle, capture the real motivation, and never ever mention the UI or the solution.
The job story describes the destination, not the car you're going to take to get there.
Okay, we've covered 3 huge frameworks. Bring it all together for us. How do problem framing, JTBD, and job stories work as one seamless machine?
Think of it as a funnel for creating clarity.
And what happens if you skip a step?
Yeah.
Say you skip the problem framing at the start.
If you skip problem framing, you start with a vague pain. You might do a great JTBD interview and uncover a real need, but you could be solving it in the wrong context or for the wrong group of users.
So you've got the why, but the where and who are wrong.
Exactly. So problem framing is the first check. It scopes everything and makes sure you're solving the right problem.
Then you apply JTBD to understand the why.
It digs below the surface symptoms to find those deeper drivers.
Wow.
The functional, the emotional, the social. That gives the whole team purpose.
And finally, the job stories are the bridge.
The essential bridge. They translate that complex motivation into a concrete, actionable requirement for the team. It connects the why to the what.
So this whole synergy is the difference between, say, fixing a bug and actually improving a user's life.
It is. If you nail the JTBD motivation, but you write a bad requirement, you just reintroduce solution bias right at the end of the process.
And all that hard work was for nothing.
The combined result is you get these outcome-focused requirements validated by real motivation with total alignment from top to bottom.
So here's your quick win from today. The next time you run into a problem at work, don't jump to the solution. Frame it first. Who is the user? What is the context? What is the negative outcome? Then ask, what job are they truly hiring for?
Is it just functional? Or are there powerful emotional and social components driving the whole thing?
And that leads perfectly to our final challenge for you.
Okay. We spend a lot of time on these complex B2B scenarios, but jobs are everywhere.
In everything we do.
So think about a mundane daily habit you have. Maybe something you do to fill small pockets of time, like mindlessly scrolling a certain website or reading a news app.
We all have one.
We all do. Ask yourself, which type of job, functional, emotional, or social, is that behavior truly being hired to perform for you? What small, deep progress are you trying to make when you do that?
We will leave you with that thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into understanding what really motivates people.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll catch you next time.